Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the UnLearnT podcast. I am your host, Ruth Abigail, aka RA,
What's up, friends? It's your girl, Jaquita.
and this is the podcast that is helping you gain the courage to change your mind so that you, yes, you can experience more freedom. And we are in a series talking about leadership. All
Yes.
different styles, guys, all different
Listen.
styles. If you're a leader and if you listen to this podcast, you probably are, then you lean into one of these 7 styles of leadership. So each episode we're talking about a particular style. And so if you haven't checked out our last one, go ahead and do that. I think democratic leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good. And we just kind of break down what that is. So in each one of these, we're going to break down what it is, kind of what the strengths and weaknesses are, and then when you need to pivot to a different style. Because healthy leaders know how to pivot.
My Lord.
And so, Quita, hold on. Before we do that, we're gonna make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, right?
Share, subscribe.
We want you to, you want you to spread the word. We want you to build the community. We want you to not keep these critical conversations, right, to yourself. You help somebody else.
Share, okay? Share. Don't keep it to yourself. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
That's right. That's
we're
right.
building a community, okay? And we don't have the leadership style. We don't operate in the leadership style that we're going to be talking about today.
That's not what
on this podcast, okay? So
that ain't really who we are.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that, like, you guys, when we're thinking about what we're going to talk about in different seasons of the podcast and in different things that we're doing, we're really considering what's going on in your life and our lives, what's relevant, what's timely, and how we can really share out information that's really going to help propel us all to the next level. Okay. Correct. And this particular day, this particular topic on today, I think is going to be eye-opening for some of us.
Agreed.
And I think, in our pre-conversation, we were just like, man, it's a little bit deeper than we realized.
It is.
And so today we are talking about the autocratic leadership style. Okay. And I really think, because when you think about the autocratic leadership style, honestly, when you look, if you were to go on Google and type, who are some examples of autocratic leaders? The list of leaders might be a little scary, okay?
Not company you want to identify with.
Yeah, the first person up is like Hitler, and you're like, oh snap, Lord, I don't want to identify with Hitler, but I think it's going to be important if you have ever founded something, if you have ever began something, if you consider yourself to be a visionary in any way, right? If you've ever had to lead a team through an emergency moment, right? You probably have at some time either used or identified with the autocratic leadership style, okay? It's really kind of marked by leadership style that is kind of auto, think self, right? It is a self-appointed, self-governing leadership style. It is, I'm at the top, I have the vision, I have the goals, I have the methodology, and I am going to be directing and instructing people on how to carry out my vision. The vision is here, okay? It lives here, and I am going to be communicating, and I'm going to have high expectations and a high level of precision of how this vision is supposed to be manifested, because what's in here should look like what I'm asking everyone to do, right? So it's really marked by a leader that kind of is the only decision maker, somebody who maintains full control throughout their leadership. Some of its impacts, right? Like, as you're thinking about, when you think about a leader that is kind of like at the head of it, they're making all the decisions, they're calling all the plays, they're telling everyone what to do, and they are not really asking for input.
Correct.
Right? That can be a little stifling, right? Because not only are they not asking for input, they're also asking you to do things that in the ways that they would do it.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not really here to explore your development or your particularities or your gifts, your talents, what you bring to the table. It's, hey, whatever you got, use to do what I asked you to do in the way that I asked you to do it, right? So it can be a little stifling sometimes. And it but and sometimes it can affect morale, right? But it is very effective in the beginning of a thing, also in helping to navigate crisis, right? So again, autocratic leadership, it is, you have one person who is the authority and who is the decision maker and who maintains control of both building and executing vision.
So, funny story. Well, a little funny. So example of autocratic leadership in a way that is not Hitler. Okay. So,
It's important.
yeah. So when I went to Germany with a group of people in 2014, and if you've ever traveled internationally, which I've only done one time, like flown internationally, you kind of have to be prepared for anything. And so we were at the airport super duper early. There was a very long line for security. We thought we had enough time. Of course, none of us speak the language, so we're all kind of like, not,
Deutsch.
Okay, all right. Quita was not
ambition.
Quita used to live in Germany, guys.
I did.
So, but we, so we're going through it, and there's a point where our plane, we were kind of getting final calls right on the plane, and they were calling for final boarding, and we were way back in security. And this was, I think we were in Paris, I want to say. And so this was our flight. No, I'm lying. We were in Germany, and we were headed to Paris to get get on the flight back to Chicago, to get in the flight back to. Yeah. So we had a schedule. We could not afford to miss this flight. So Jill, who's my partner in crime with Angel Street, right? She was kind of leader of the trip, and Jill put on her autocratic hat in a moment. She went and she basically literally bulldozed. And Jill is a small human. Okay. So she's like that. She made her way, and she was like, come on, y'all, we making this flight. And she bulldozed through the crowd, making people upset. We all were a little upset. We were upset, but we could tell people were annoyed. Some people were cool. Some people were like, what are they doing? Of course, we're American. Nobody likes Americans. And so we're running, we're going through, and she just demands that we come to our plane. This was necessary, right? We had to have somebody to take that. She said, I brought y'all here. I'm getting us home. And she did that, right? And we were fine, right? But that is, so to the point that Quita was making, autocratic leadership is necessary in some areas, right? That was a crisis moment. Somebody had to take charge. We didn't have time to sit around and take a vote. We didn't have time to sit around and think through our feelings of bothering people. We didn't have time to do any of that. We had to do something, and we had to do it now, and somebody had to lead us through that. When you have those kind of moments, you gotta have that kind of tenacity as a leader. Yeah. And it will often be in that way.
Yeah, and I think something important to note is that most autocratic leaders, they don't get there because they halfway do anything.
That's right.
They are highly skilled, they are highly influential, they're usually brilliant, right? Like they have like just an immense amount of gifting and personality and charisma, right. Like our vision, our like just know-how, right? Knowledge, wisdom, skill, like they are packed full of gifting, right? Which is why people are like, hey, yeah, let them be the leader. Yeah. Let them do it. And I think, I love that you use like that idea of like an emergency, like, hey, like we gotta get, like this is not optional. Autocratic leadership is great in situations where there's not a lot of options. Like, hey, we gotta go my way because we don't have time for y'all to diddly daddly.
Right.
Okay, we don't have time for y'all to be whimsical and tiptoeing through the tulips.
Right.
All right. We
Everybody's
have
voice is not relevant in this
no,
conversation.
because we gonna if we in the democratic style, if we take a moment to say, hey, what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? And what do you think we should do? Why don't we combine them all together? We gonna you missed the plane.
Yeah,
Plane gone.
we're back in the hotel.
We're stuck in
Yeah,
Germany.
That's right.
Right. And so like there is so much autocratic leadership can oftentimes produce explosive results.
Yeah.
Right. Like because they are the ones that are making the dynamic changes. They are making huge moves. This is not a progressive play. This is the thing we're about to do is about to change.
That's right. Yep. It's
The
not, I
scope
like
of
what you
the
said.
entire world.
It's not
Yeah.
progressive. That's really good.
It's not progressive.
It's explosive.
It is explosive.
That's very good. Yeah.
And there are moments, even when you look through history, that's why, and I hate that most of our autocratic examples, we do have one that's not as negative, but most of our autocratic examples are like
Hitler,
again,
Napoleon.
Hitler. Yeah, Napoleon,
right?
Stalin,
Stalin.
Yeah, like, but they had an explosive impact on history. It's not like George Washington, who along built something. It is like this person came out of nowhere and demanded that society change.
Yeah.
And society was like, why? Okay.
We're changing.
And then like, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that we have to be mindful of how we are influencing systems. Yeah. And you have to know, if you are a person who this is your primary style, right? This is your primary leadership style, and you often find yourself easily like coming up with visions that are going to have an explosive impact, right? I'm hoping that our conversation today can give some insight on how do we continue to not just lead teams through these explosive, dynamic kind of like ideas and situations that you want to build, but how do you pivot in your leadership? Because there's an explosion, and then there has to be somebody who's going to maintain it, right? And sometimes you are the person to maintain it, and sometimes you have to know how to hand it off to the next person so you can go build something else that's going to completely blow up. You know what I'm saying? And so when you have this leadership style, you have to be aware of what your influence and what kind of your commanding presence is doing in the scope of a team.
So I think it's the Steve Jobs is a great example of a leader who had an autocratic style, but it was very effective for making Apple the way it is, right? He had very high standards. There was not you didn't get a vote on how things were going. If it wasn't exactly how he wanted it, you're doing it again. Like we're like, he was highly creative, highly innovative, and he was a genius in the marketing field. He understood how to say things, how to make people kind of connect to the products. He understood all of that very well, better than anybody else. I would dare say in modern history, he's probably top 3, right? At what he did.
Hey, he got movies. Once they start making movies about
you know what I'm saying? Like you were
somebody.
You were somebody. You in a good space. He got 2. And so, I think that like if we have to kind of point to someone who wasn't a dictator who's trying to, do a new world order that was, going to exclude human people. He's a great example. However, right, you can see there's a difference between somebody who is somebody who has helpers and somebody who has a team. And I think, Quita, what you were saying earlier, as far as, I find it, I will say it like this: I think it's hard to pair an autocratic leader with a team. I don't think autocratic leaders have teams. I think they have people who help. And Now,
I don't think they always realize that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's right. And that's my point. Like, I think you can't be autocratic and have a team, because the team is about working together. And an autocratic leader is not really interested in working with you. He or she wants you working for them. And so that's a mindset shift. And at certain times and seasons of certain things, that's necessary. When Steve Jobs created Apple, it was a brand new concept. The way that the way that computer worked at the time was different than any other thing that was happening. And he wanted it to look different and feel different and all this stuff. It was not the way IBM was doing it. It was not the way Microsoft well, Microsoft was software, so we're not going to go there. But his hardware was so different. It was beautiful. It was a whole different, feel. And so you look at transferring from, like computers to then phones, to then watches, to then, all these different things, right? So I think a very good example of an autocratic leadership style, but somebody who wasn't a bad human,
tyrant,
dictator, right? What is Steve Jobs. And for Steve Jobs is a good example, because Steve Jobs had a very clear vision of what he was wanting Apple to be, what he wanted his products to look like. And so he was insistent on not going beneath that standard in his mind. It's like, this is what it has to be.
Yeah, and the standard was his vision.
Right? Yeah. And and so it was the uniqueness of that. If you're not familiar with Steve Jobs, one of the unique things about his journey, right, is that by the time we got the computer, right, I think it was the Lisa, and then you had, anyway, all these different types, right? He was a part of the company for a time, and then he left the company. And I don't remember if he got fired or he left. I feel like they fired, like it was a disagreement. So you had
some clashing.
It was some clashing, and part of it was because he did not like the direction that it was going, and he wanted to take it a different direction, right? Thank you. All right. So my husband just told me the board voted him out. He's over here listening to the conversation.
Thanks, Ty. We appreciate you.
So the board voted him out because they had a difference of opinion of where the company was going. But then they brought him back. Let
me tell you something.
And so, so it's like, I think there's a lot to, like, they brought him back, and then from then until I think he willingly left, that's when we get all these different wait, when I say willingly left, he didn't die before he leave. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be insensitive, I'm just making sure I'm right. Did he pass before he retired? Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Producer Joy. Yeah. His health caught up with him. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm just trying to get my facts straight.
Listen, you gotta get the story around someone's death. You really gotta get.
Yeah, I don't want to get that wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to get that wrong. But throughout, after he came back is when we get all the like big innovative things that he did, when we went basically from computer to phone to iPod to or computer to iPod to phone to like iPad, right? And now like these are things that he really put into place. That doesn't happen by consensus. That doesn't happen by getting a vote. That happens by listening to someone's vision and executing on his behalf. Yeah. And so we see the growth of Apple as a great company, as a company that is has a cult following. I am one of them. And I mean, I'm just not interested in other things.
I have the products now and I appreciate them, but I was an Android user for a while until my friends started having children. And they were like, "You gonna mess up the FaceTime things." And
there you go. Like, I mean, I'm saying like, yeah. But see, even that, like, those are things that he understood. Like, he just understood those things. And so, So yeah, if you want to think about that, like there are moments and seasons in organizations and companies where that kind of leadership style is necessary for the growth and for the identity of a company. The question is, if you realize though, and Apple started to plateau after he was no longer in the picture, and even to decline a little bit. And I don't want to. We're not like business analysts, so I'm not going to speculate too much here. But I do think that a big reason for that is when you have that kind of leadership style, you don't often pass those things on. They live in you, and when you're no longer there, it's no longer there. So when he has moved on, now the leadership has not it was not like there was no encouragement to kind of catch what he had and keep it going. It was like, no, I don't need you to I need you to just follow me. Just follow me, just follow me, just follow me. And there's no multiplication. There's no sharing of anything. And so that innovative spirit kind of left with him, and you can see that in the way the company kind of went. So yeah.
I think a couple of things that again, if you are identifying with this leadership style, one, there's nothing wrong. I mean, there are things that need to be adapted and you need to pivot from in this leadership style at different seasons. But it is okay if this is kind of like a primary place that you sit.
Yeah.
But there are some things that I think that you have to realize. One, like when you talked about him getting voted out, and I think autocratic leaders have to know you will face some adversity. You will face adversity because we don't really live in a society where we're going to follow one person for too long. Right? Like you're going to, like, you being the seat of vision and innovation and everything comes from me is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for the growth of an organization, and it's not sustainable for you as a person. I hate to bring this example up, but the example that I thought of when we were kind of talking through this episode was when you look back at slavery. Okay. Like a lot of those, when I studied that, I did a lot of like Black history courses when I was in divinity school, like African American religious courses and just American history. Like a lot of those slave owners went crazy because maintaining that sense of control and that sense of all the ideas and all the privilege and all the power comes from me. It is not sustainable for you as a person. And you will look back. The other example that I thought of was Thanos. You will look back, like Thanos in Infinity War and in Avengers Endgame, in the Avengers franchise. Thanos was like, I have the vision, and what we need to do to maintain the universe is wipe out half of y'all. And this is going to solve everything.
All the problems.
Because I think that autocratic leadership style gets really focused on ideals and ideas and concepts and agendas and mission and purpose, and not always people. Because anytime you are trying to build something, you don't always really think through, process, consider how it's really going to impact people, or how people are really how people are really going to or how people are really going to think through or be impacted by your idea. You're just thinking this is a great idea. So Thanos was like, hey, wipe out half the people and we will now have, like a better world. And they're like, hey, you're not killing my family, my brothers, my sisters.
Right.
You're not killing half the world. Right. And so like there becomes this war of ideas. And I feel like autocratic leaders may often find themselves in that position where you're an autocratic leader because you believe in your ideas. You believe in your dreams and your visions. What do you do when other people don't? And I think that's where the pivot and the adaptation has to begin.
So speaking of Thanos, Quitta, could you raise your wrist real quick, please?
Y'all are so
because
silly.
I didn't see it until
this is bananas.
Because hold on, because we have the time stone. Hold on, we have the power stone.
Oh my
we
gosh.
have the we have
that
the space stone.
So, when I tell you that is dumb,
I'm just saying, like, hold on, turn around. Let me see if something else. Hold on, what's the other one? We have the mind stone. Boy, you got them. You got them. That is great.
That's bananas.
That is fantastic.
I will tell you, I willed my power for good. Okay. And I'd like to share.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad producer Joy pointed that out.
I know. I saw that in the chat. That's what threw me off. I was like, I know good and well. And the funny thing is, I had just taken it off because I take my jewelry on and off a lot. And when I saw that, I was like, let me put it back on so they can make this little crazy point.
Oh, that. Thank you for that. That was great.
Hilarious. I like my little bracelet though. Okay,
it's cute. That's cute. No, it's real cute. Yeah. Just don't kill nobody.
My lord.
So I think again, let's kind of like define when really clearly define when the autocratic leadership style is truly appropriate. Mm-hmm. And you've kind of hit on it. When you're building something, okay, there's no room for conversation, right? Usually you're on a deadline. Usually you're under a lot of pressure. Usually you are trying to create something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. And so you think about how a contractor moves. A contractor tells people what they need to be doing, where they need to be going. A contractor's like, this, okay, you're here. I need you here. I need this done by this time, because then this person has to come in and do this. Like, there's not a whole lot of conversation and discussion. I'm not trying to get your opinion. I'm not interested in that, right? We're trying to get this thing off the ground. We're trying to build. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that mentality, when you are building something, when there is something out of nothing, of which I have personally been a part of 5 teams that have done that. Okay. There aren't a lot of things I'm going to call myself an expert in. And when I say expert, I mean like having that 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. I have 10,000 hours in founding things. And I know that it takes a level of confidence and clarity and clear communication, right? Of not just clarity, like clarity and thought and communication to get something off the ground. And I also know, being a part of founding teams, everybody, like, if you're a part of a founding team, you understand that there are some things you don't get a say in. There's some things we're just going to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that we have to realize that those types of leaders are crucial for the beginning, like you said, and for the founding of something, for building a foundation, right? And if that is the season in which you're in, as far as your leadership, or the season of your organization, mm-hmm. The season of your family, I will say this, because and I'm gonna pivot to this real quick, and Quid, I'd love your thoughts on this. I don't know that I'd go as far as to say, now this about
to be bananas.
This might mess with your head a little bit. It's okay. We were talking about biblical characters, and you were trying to like figure like is there a biblical leader that kind of leans into this style? And I didn't say it then, but I'm gonna say it now. I'm gonna see what you think. I don't know if I'm fully ready to say this, but I think there are elements of this in his leadership, and that's Paul.
I knew you were gonna say Paul. So I knew it. I was sitting there and I was like, she's about to say Paul. But
do you understand? Like, but okay, like when you look at, because you're founding the church is being founded. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't just Paul, right? The apostles in general, I would call them a founding team. Mm-hmm. And there were decisions that they had to make that you didn't get a say in, right? Now they kind of did that with each other, but there was not a lot of, it's like, hey, we've got to just come up with these particular guidelines of how we operate as a unit, and that's just what it's gonna be. Like, now did they? You're about to, I know you're about to push back a little bit. That's okay.
No. What I'm gonna say is, look at you. I'm not here to talk about the other disciples. I'm going to answer Paul.
Okay, Paul. All right,
I
fine.
will say, I think another distinct trait of autocratic leadership is a sense of, one, a high level of excellence, a high level of, but not just excellence, what's the, like, values. And there's always, like, I feel like every autocratic leader, you can, like, take them and be like, this was the mission, these were the values, these were the standards, right? High standards, high values, right? Like, spirit of excellence. I also think another kind of indicator of an autocratic leader is someone, they usually have a high level of belief. Like, because you got to believe in your vision.
Yeah, you do.
You got to believe in your vision, and you got to believe in what you're trying to accomplish. So I think there's a high level of belief, and I think that there is a sense of inspiration. Like, I've been inspired. I have received. I know the way forward. I know the thing. And you have to be fully committed, fully convinced, because you are now going to have to go out and get other people to believe it too, and then enact it.
That's right.
I would say I wouldn't put Paul completely as an autocratic leader, because I think that he also had other people around him that he was, one, pouring into, but I also think that he took a lot of time to be poured into and influence. And yes, I would not put him fully as an autocratic leader, but I can see how some of these traits from autocratic leadership, because Paul, the other disciples were really kind of founding churches in places that they knew and understood. Paul was going out. This
is where I would say, I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't classify him as an autocratic leader. So I think that because of that, right, like that particular nuance of his leadership, he was bringing in a once excluded people into a faith that was never intended for them. And so
it was intended for them. Thank you very much. But
you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
It was.
You know what I mean.
You're all welcome.
Culturally, it wasn't. Like, culturally it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Okay. One day we're gonna have just a little debate. No, we're not. We're never gonna do that. That's actually never gonna happen. And so only because she doesn't want it to.
I'm one totally faith, one Lord, one baptism. We ain't debating on here.
Okay, wait, but hold on. That statement was made by Paul, and that was a statement that he was not. He had to even the apostles had to come to understand that. I mean, look at Peter and his revelation. He was not for the Gentiles. We're gonna get off of this in a minute, y'all, but I think this is important for those, but like, he wasn't for the Gentiles being a part of it. Like, and so I'm just saying, like, Paul had to really, like, lean in hard on some things
I'll
by himself.
No, I'll say this. I will say the apostolic call, just in general, when we talk about fivefold ministry. Okay, and if anybody needs any more conversation, you have apostles, you have prophets, you have pastors, teachers, and evangelists. Apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. Okay, just make sure I got everybody. I think that when you look at an apostolic call, just in general, and I think that Paul is a wonderful example of this. Like, it is like everything that you were talking about, like finding something that was not existing and adding structure and standards to it. I do think that's important to understand about people who have autocratic leadership styles.
Yeah.
Like, you are setting the framework for something.
The framework, yes.
And so it is important. Noah building the ark, that was a precise move. Like, every board had a place. Building the temple, everything had a place, a position, because we are trying to enact a vision, right? And I think what Paul would say is, it's not my vision, right?
Agreed.
Like, it's not.
Sure.
And I think that's the point. And I think that that's something also that autocratic leaders have to deal with, because there is a sense in where you have to let go of it, where you have to release your control and say, even though this is an amazing vision that has been given to me from the Lord, and it is indeed my assignment to carry this out, there is a sense in which you have to say, this belongs to the Lord. I'm a soldier. I think that, and I think that's where Paul, based off of the way that we've kind of been defining and understanding autocratic leadership, I think that's where Paul would show us how to pivot. Paul would say, I'm a servant of the Most High. I'm a soldier
right.
of
He
the
was a
Lord.
healthy, he had a healthy understanding,
A very healthy understanding
of what this is.
And I think the other thing I think that we can take from Paul, and thank you, Ruth Abigail, because I do think that, because I told you, I was like, there's a biblical example I'm trying to get to. The other thing that we can take from Paul is that Paul did not try to pastor all the churches.
Correct.
Paul did not say, all right, I founded you and I'm going to walk with you and I'm going to be here. Paul was like, all right, we built this thing over here. Now we're going over here. Now we're going over here. Now we're going over here. And that is what allowed the kingdom to expand. I think where autocratic leaders will find that they can sometimes get stuck is when what they founded, they're still trying to hold on to.
1000%.
And they're like, because this was my vision, this was my idea, and this came to me, and I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one that can da 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 da. I have to stay with it. And it's like, sometimes, and I think a good many of the times, there is somebody that is waiting in the folds. Mm-hmm. There is somebody that has been walking along with you, right? There's a Timothy. There's a Silas, mm-hmm. right? There's somebody that you have been that has walked with you, that agrees with the standards, that has caught the vision, and you have to be able to toss them the ball and mm-hmm. say, hey, I'm here for you, I got you, I'm with you, but you have the ball now. And so I started it, but you gonna maintain it. And I think that autocratic leaders have to be able to discern a moment when it's going to be more helpful for them to allow other people, because your gifting is not going to inspire a team. Your gifting as an autocratic leader, it is not going to be able to galvanize and energize and develop. That's not going to be your main focus. You may be able to pivot in some ways to do that, but it is so much more beneficial if you allow the people that are actually gifted to do that, if you allow them in and give them some creative control. You have to learn. You don't have to share power, but you do have to pass it.
I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I
think in the founding of it, you may not be sharing. Founding of it, in the founding of it, you may not be sharing it then, but you do have to pass it. Like you have to say, okay, I have this thing, and then you have to pass it.
So I think one of the key things here, we talk about this principle all the time, is self-awareness. If you as leaders, it is imperative that we are self-aware. It's also imperative that we are aware of the moment. So not just self-aware, but you're aware of the moment you're in. Mm. And I think that when you're both of those things, you can do the kind of thing that Quita is saying. But if I'm not self-aware and I'm not aware of the moment, then all I'm going to be doing is doing what I feel like I know how to do. There are three, this isn't exclusive, but I heard this and I kind of held on to it. There are three types of leaders that you can, and I think it's relevant to this conversation. You have builders, you have optimizers, and you have fixers. Builders build. They start from nothing and they come up with something, right? They like whiteboards. They like just kind of wondering and thinking about ideas and coming up with stuff like that. They don't like instruction. They want to figure things out themselves, that kind of thing, right? I'm a builder. This is the way I live best. They're creative and all this stuff. You have optimizers. Optimizers, the way I like to think about it, maximize what the builder builds. And so they take what is there and they grow it, they scale it. These are your scalers. These are people who can are good delegators. They're able to build a team. They're able to maximize what you have built. And then you have fixers, right? Fixers come in and they are crisis management people. They're like, okay, things are crumbling. I'm coming to fix it, right? They are often people who, these are sometimes your interim leaders, right? I've been under interim leadership before, and it's like we're not ready for a more long-term leader because we have some issues we have to fix. And you have sometimes interim leaders who come in and say, I don't want to be your your long-term leader. I'm not an optimizer. I'm not going to scale this thing, but I can come in and tell you what's broken and we can fix it and put it back together and put it in a place where a leader can come in to be able to maximize this thing well. Right. So what happens is when you have
interesting.
uh-huh.
Sorry. I think it's interesting because I feel like on our UnLearnT team, I feel like we have all of them. I feel like we have a builder. I feel like we have an optimizer, and Joy is constantly fixing us.
Yeah, she is. She's trying to always fix us. She feels like we're broken. Like she thinks we're broken. She's people.
Like, oh, these poor souls.
These terrible people. Man. They need my help all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. And I think the best teams have a mix of it, right? You need that. But you also need to understand, and we talked about this in The Lion King. We were talking about like a circle, like it's a circle, right?
Yeah.
You
that was
have to
good. That was good. Go back to our summer series. Catch that one.
Check out the summer series. Talk about The Lion King. Talk about leadership as a circle, not a ladder. So, we have to. At some point, it's your turn. We all affect each other. If you put a builder in an optimizing position, then oftentimes what you'll find is creating unnecessary, creating things and putting things on top of each other just to create, because that's what you're built to do, right?
Yeah.
If you put a fixer in the position of a builder, oftentimes what you'll find is that you break things just to fix them. Because you don't, and it's not that you're trying to do that, but you're looking for a problem. You create, if I'm looking for a problem to fix, sometimes I'll create the problem to fix. When really what you need is a builder. You need somebody who's going to build, but a fixer can't build, right? If you put an optimizer in a position of fixer, then a lot of times that thing will crumble because an optimizer really is, they're not trying to fix it. They're trying to make it better, but it's not better. And I don't know what to do with it. So I'm just going to keep perpetuating what's wrong.
Ruth Abigail, you better teach the people on today.
So you have to understand, and it's a good, again, it's not exclusive. And this is not like, but it's a good way, I think, to understand when we're talking about autocratic leadership that belongs with a particular type of leader. And it belongs in a particular type of time period.
That's so good.
An autocratic leader can't be an optimizer. If something is needed to scale and something is needed to grow, you can't be autocratic. If you need to fix a problem, you can be autocratic there, right? If you are starting something from scratch and there's no manual, you can be autocratic there, right? Again, though, each one of those has a cycle. Building is not always building. At some point, you want to grow the thing you built. So you've got to move. And has to be somebody else who, an autocratic leadership style will no longer work, right? Okay. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry. No, everything on the inside of me is jumping around. Because I think it's so critical. I feel like I am surrounded. I am surrounded by very gifted, wonderful, amazing, beautiful visionaries. And I used to feel bad. I used to be like, Jaquita, get some vision about yourself.
Sure.
All right. Where's your vision, daughter? Right. Because I was just like, just such a high level of respect and admiration for who they are. But I think that it is important. One, I understand, because I used to tell people I'm a great second. Right. And I remember somebody got really offended that I said that. And they were like, why are you saying that you're a second? Like there's beauty in being a second. And I was like, I know, but I'm just saying I'm a great second. But I am, what you just described was, I'm like, hey, I'm really, really good at taking an idea and like blowing it up. Like, okay, we're gonna take this thing and I'm gonna build movement on it. I'm gonna build a team. I'm gonna get morale and support. I'm gonna get donations. I'm gonna get whatever we need. I can do that. But I can't do that if I'm not trusted. And I can't do that if the ball is not passed to me.
Sure.
And I think this also, I feel like I'm just getting answers, guys. Sorry, I'm having a personal moment. But, like I have been trying to figure out like why in some of my previous roles, why my season came to an end. And it's because I realized that they were not going to allow me to be that number 2 and to galvanize and build and push forward and move forward, that they were going to hold on too tightly.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that autocratic leaders, you have to take a step, you have to step back from the vision and you have to see the team.
Yeah.
You have to see who's on it. You have to know, understand, and as much as they respect your vision and your gifts, you have to know, understand, and respect the people that have been following after you because they believe in your vision.
Absolutely.
To take a moment. You have to step back, because it is only then that you will get some clarity on what the next step of the vision is. And a lot of autocratic leaders are living in the first step. Yes. They're living in the moment of building. And so all they keep thinking about is, we need to do this and we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing the things we said we're supposed to do. The vision is not complete. The thing is not done. And you're not going to get any momentum on that because you have not fully acknowledged and empowered your people. And a lot of times that acknowledgement and that empowerment is going to require you to let some things go.
Yep.
And until you have identified and letting it go, fully understanding that something might get dropped in the process, but so much more will get picked up if you allow people to just fully flourish. Like understanding that transition might be rocky, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
Because the vision is never going to come to pass if it's only in your hands.
No, it won't.
Your purpose. And I think, again, thank you, Ruth Abigail, because Paul was a great example, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Being the biblical example, extraordinaire on today. Right. But I think even looking at him, like he, you know what I'm saying? He was writing in to say, hey, y'all stay with the vision. Okay. I'm trusting y'all. Y'all are leading, but every church had their own specific thing. Yeah. Own specific way that they was kind of rocking to the left and the right. And so Paul would come in and check in and be like, hey, that ain't what I told y'all to do.
Yeah.
That was not the vision. That is not how God is leading this thing. Yeah. And I think and that is such a great example of autocratic leadership and how it can be healthy. But you have to pass the ball.
Two things I think and we might end here. I don't know if we may or may not, but you tell me. But like two things that I really think in my personal leadership has really helped being a builder. Now I don't have an autocratic mentality, but personality. Like well, you know what? I might. But I try to be nice. You know what I'm saying?
I try to say autocratic people couldn't be nice.
That's absolutely right. So you're right.
I think you have an inclination.
I think I do. Yeah, I think I try to curve it because I don't want to come across as a jerk. But I do have particular things that I think the teams that I've led have definitely like hinted at, hey, we got it, or hey, you don't have to keep checking in, or hey, right? And
I feel like every episode, Ruth App's gonna be like, I identify with this.
I mean, honestly, it really is kind of like, I'm becoming more self-aware. But two things that have helped me to pivot. I don't know about the pivot who I am as a leader to fit the season that needs to be. Is as a builder, and I am a builder, so I do have like when I'm building something, like there is this like no, it needs to be this. This is what we this is where we're going, um, and it is so as a builder, that is currently I'm a builder in the seat of an optimizer. That's what's happening right now in the organization. But what has helped me to pivot is to embrace the newness of things to build within the seat. So if you can, there are things about Angel Street that are that quite frankly I have contributed to building that are built. They don't need changing. They don't need innovation. It's what it is. What they need is somebody to come in and scale it. Then there are things about Angel Street that are new. Most things in the last several years that were new came from my brain, and that simply because the way that I think is to do the new thing. What I had to learn was don't sabotage the old thing, building a new thing. So what do I have to do? I have to give the old things away and me focus on the new thing. But if I focus on the new thing, I won't be so preoccupied with the old thing. The problem is people don't have a new thing. You not focusing on your new thing. And the thing is, as a builder, you always have new things. So go do that, right? Don't stifle that because you're trying to hold on.
Yeah.
So that has really helped me to really lean in and become a learner again, because like I'm learning how to do things. I get to be a student. Yeah. I get to like become a novice again at something. Like I really don't know what I'm doing. And that preoccupies me to be like, hey, they got this. I don't have to worry about that. But these other things, it's like, yo, like I have these ideas, but I really don't know how to execute them. I need help. I really don't know how to, how to go about doing this. I don't know what the steps are to this. I've never done this before. Organizations haven't really leaned into this before. I can't really talk to anybody about it. That's how I move. And it takes me away from the necessity to say to want to oversee the things that are really established. So that's one thing. I think the other thing that has really helped me. What? Oh shoot! Did I lose it? Dadgummit! I think I lost it.
This moment is brought to you by Middle Adult.
Oh man, I definitely had two things.
Yes, she did. Will she get it back? If she looks up at the ceiling long enough, it might float back down to her.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that we will, but yeah, I don't want to linger. But I do think that has been helpful for me as somebody who is a leader, who's a builder, who is actually sitting in an optimizer position, so that I don't pile on new things to the old thing. I have to find my new direction and lean into that, and lean into the things that I know will benefit the organization, that are what we've never done before. I'm doing that. Let me do that, because that's my strength.
Yeah,
I need to stay away from the other thing. Right. Yeah. So
I think again, as that optimizer, I really am resonating with that. I mean, I have been in places where I've been a builder, but really I'm building to get to optimizing.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, all right, here's an idea. All right, now let me get my team together. Let me get my thoughts together. All right, what do you guys think we should do?
That is
okay,
funny.
now that immediately, that's like that's my go-to. Like when I have a vision, it's okay. Who can I bring around to do this? What are all the parts and pieces of it? Because I need to be in a place where I'm galvanizing, where I'm developing, where I'm scaling, where I'm like, all right, like right now, my job is I create orientation programs. The school has been doing orientation programs for, since the school was a thing, probably, right? But my mind is like, how can we do this in a way that's going to be more impactful? I want the people to leave inspired. I want them to experience orientation like they've never experienced it before. And that's my lane. That is my lane, is how do we take something. And I'm also like, even in my like normal conversations, how do I take something that seems regular to people, and I'm like, nah, I can make this thing so profound, so amazing, and I can scale the way that you think about it. And I think if you are an autocratic leader, look for your scaler. Look for your, yes. You need to find your developer, your optimizer. What was you calling it?
Optimizer.
Yeah, you need to find your optimizer.
Yes, and I think that was the second thing I was going to say. Actually, was find the person who can scale what you're doing.
Yeah,
find your optimizer. You need to partner with that person.
Yes. You need to partner with that person. Partner doesn't mean I tell the optimizer what to do.
No, right.
Partner means partner doesn't mean I watch and helicopter over the optimizer to make sure they do it in the way that I would do it. They're not going to. The optimizer is not going to do it the way you would do it.
Right.
Because they're not a builder.
Right.
And you have to trust. And I think autocratic leadership, I think one of the things that they might lack a little bit is trust.
For sure. That's a huge deficit. Yes.
Ain't nothing. Yeah. You lack trust.
Yeah.
You lack trust, and you lack an ability to allow somebody else, because you treat everything. I don't know if you treat everything like your baby, but you treat everything like it's yours.
Yeah.
And I think if you can be like Paul and say, this is the Lord's church. This is the Lord's idea. This is the Lord's vision. And it can travel to somebody else's hands.
It came back. I came back.
I told y'all, middle adult moments. It always comes back, baby. All right.
Yes. Paul. Okay. So the idea, Paul really transitioned once he built the thing, and I'm using this word loosely, but he kind of transitioned into like a consultant, right? Mm-hmm. He started to help people maintain what was built. So he could see what it's like, hey, you need to do it like this, right? Or there's a gap here. So how about do this? Here's this tool. But he didn't go run it. He didn't go say, hey, everybody, I got to come back.
Y'all all right, everybody sit down. I got it, because y'all were never going to get it.
He answered questions, right? Mm-hmm. He answered questions. He became somebody you could come, like, hey, we're having this issue. Can you help us? Yes, I can do that. Mm-hmm. Right. And then he would give the context around why he's answering.
Man, I hope this sets somebody free.
That is a great place to pivot. Yes. If you're an autocratic leader and you've built something, pivot to a consultant, pivot to somebody, to a coach, pivot yes. there. You know what I'm saying?
But back up.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm serious, because you are wearing yourself out.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant to say when we were talking earlier about it, the autocratic leadership style. If you stay in that place of, I got to do everything has to come from me, all my ideas, all my thoughts, nobody else is going to do it like me.
You get tired.
You are wearing yourself out.
Yes.
And you are operating under this misaligned idea that because you are the one with the vision, that nobody else will be able to carry it out. But the Bible says that if you give them the vision, the people will run with it. Let them have it. Let them run. You're not the runner. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You trying to create the vision and run with it. Do you know how much energy you just expended creating it? You don't have to run with it too. That's why we are the body of Christ. And the head can't do what the shoulder do, what the arm do, what the wrist do,
your job, and this is something I'm learning literally right now. And this is something I think Paul did. He wrote letters. He wrote down he wrote instruction.
Yeah.
He wrote it down. Write it down.
That's good.
Write your stuff down. Stop trying to tell people. Stop trying to go and do things on the spot and execute. That's not your job. Write it down. Give it to them. Let them figure it out. I think that's where our strength is better used, right? If you create documents, create them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead and do it so that people have the resources to then optimize and or fix.
Yeah.
Like, pivot your energy into that. Right.
And when it's written, that becomes a standard operating procedure.
Come on.
Like this is
because who
the
just made
standard.
14 of those? Yes, that was me. I did it. I made 14 SOPs.
I was like, what's she talking about? I was
I'm
like,
sorry. I just
did
had
Paul
to.
have 14 letters?
No.
I was confused.
That's hilarious. No.
I mean, I think that that's so key. And even when you look at, at Steve Jobs, like, who a highly innovative, his vision was so precise. And, we got all these products that everybody loves. And, if you are an Apple, believer, what they call it, the apostolic, if you are apostolic, like a apostolic, if you are apostolic,
that's
like you are like, this is the best of the best.
Right.
People who use MacBooks are like, man, no, the MacBook. Because see, when I first got the MacBook, I was like, what? Who built this? Who developed this? Right? But there's such a high level of, there's a high standard on these. Right? We can debate about the innovation, but it's built with a high standard. One reason why I have stuck with an iPhone is because people know I was known for breaking a phone. I mean, phone shattered to pieces.
It's very true.
These iPhones,
yep, durable,
sturdy. Okay. They're built well. They may not do all the things the Androids do, but it ain't broke on me yet.
What you
okay. It hang tough with me, but when you think about all of the benefits of Jobs, and he was such an innovative leader and had such a high standard. But when you look at what it was like to work in that place, right? They were not, this is not Google. Right? People weren't running. This is not Yahoo. Okay. People were not excited to be there. Right. So there was high employee turnover. They were known to have like a toxic workplace reputation. And I think one of the things that autocratic leaders can miss out on, if you do not take a step back from the vision and see the people, you will lose the benefit of collaboration and some of the things that those Democratic leaders, if you watch the last episode, some of those things that those Democratic leadership styles are easily getting, right? They're getting the best out of their team. You're not going to get the best out of your team. And I think what you said was so key, Ruth Abigail, in that you have to be able to transition to a coaching realm in what you're doing. And you also have to make sure that you know what's important about the vision. The impact of the vision is important. The excellence and the standards of the vision is important. Some of the other stuff that you're holding on to may not actually be the vision. It may be your preference.
And it may be your methodology.
You have to be able to parse out, where did I go in and insert my preference into the purpose?
That's correct.
And you have to be able to separate those. And I think once you do that, you can allow people, you can pass the ball. And they may not do what you prefer, but they may still be aligned with the purpose, the mission, the values, and the standards of what you've built.
And there you have it, folks.
Autocratic leadership, man.
Our thoughts on autocratic leadership.
Y'all, this stuff be getting deeper than we be planning. I'm gonna tell you that.
It do. We said we was gonna be done in 50 minutes.
No, you said 40 minutes, and I said, yeah, right.
I did. I thought we were, but we did it in a reasonable amount of time. We said we need to say, amen. So yeah, I think this is. I hope y'all enjoying this. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I really like having this conversation about leadership. So y'all, this is really good, and I think it's helping me. Hopefully, it's helping you. And we will be back next week. So until then, we're gonna keep on unlearning together so that we can experience more freedom. Peace.
Bye, y'all.